It was weird. It was 100% weird, but let's be real. Anybody who's ever been to an Iron Bowl, especially at Jordan-Hare Stadium, knew that this outcome was probably going to happen one way or another. Let's go ahead and talk about it. If you are new here, welcome on into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts on the 27-24 epic conclusion of the 2023 season in the SEC. Tell your friends, your family, your sister, your brother, your mortal enemies, your best of bros about this channel. Thank you to all the new subscribers who have joined. We're on the race to 1,000, then 5,000, then 10,000, and 100,000. So continue to tell everybody about this channel. And as always, let's talk college football. By the way, if you hit the subscribe button here, make sure you also go over and follow me on social media at Mr. Cole Thompson. It's the same Twitter handle as it is the YouTube handle. So when you hit one, make sure you hit the other. Alabama comes away on top. Alabama finds a way to win this game. And it's so interesting because people seem to forget that this is a game where you kind of take logic out and just say, you know what, let them play football for 3 hours and whoever wins, wins. And that's always the case. And it's not always the case when you go to Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, where the raging fans of the Tide are screaming, hooping, and hollering and making it seem like they are cascading over what is the Tigers. But when you go to Jordan-Hare, things get out of hand a lot. This is not uncommon. What you saw where Jalen Milroe is able to lead the comeback, where Jalen Milroe is able to go from having a ball on the 7-yard line, then take a fumble, then go ahead and step over the line so he gets penalized for that, pushes it back and makes it 4th and 31 is very common in Jordan-Hare Stadium. And it's the Iron Bowl. It's rivalry week. There's animosity that flows through your veins. When you are born in the Yellowhammer State, or if you're a part of one of the families, you're either donned with the crimson and white, or you're donned with the blue and orange, and you hate that other sideline. You hate them. You think that they are the scum of the earth, and it is supposed to be that way. Fights get broken out. When marriages occur, people don't talk to each other at the weddings, and you never get married in November. That's for damn sure. And if you don't have the win, you're sleeping on the couch that night. There are tragedies, there are murders, there are people going to court over this game. People lose their craziness. Everything about college football culminates in a weekend when these two square off against each other. And I understand, for most people, the game is probably the best rivalry in college football. But if you grow up in the South, or if you went to Alabama like yours truly, or went to Auburn, there's nothing like the Iron Bowl. And of course, just happens this way. Hugh Freeze was not uncommon to seeing this before. Hugh Freeze, back when he was at Ole Miss, watched something very similar happen where his team felt like they had the edge until they didn't. 4th and 25, Hunter Henry, Alex Collins, game over, Brandon Allen, welcome to the history books in Fayetteville, Arkansas. He's not uncommon to hearing this stuff. But what is uncommon is how this occurred for this Auburn team. This Auburn team. But what's really interesting is that if you ask an Alabama fan about what happened the week before, where New Mexico State marches on in, a very good Mexico State team, I might add in, marches into Jordan-Hare and not only gets paid nearly $2 million to get a win, but a emphatic win. A win to where now Liberty's paying attention going, well, if we're not on our P's and Q's and we're not perfect, our undefeated season is definitely at risk. And Alabama fans said the exact same thing, except instead of an undefeated season, they said college football playoff hopes. That's what happened. Because I can tell you this, last week, we did a video. We talked about this. We mentioned that we thought that Auburn probably was already game planning for Alabama. And the second that clock hit 0 and Alabama fans were able to watch that thing unfold, a lot of them went, yeah, they're prepared. Yeah, they're going to come and get ready for us. And again, this is Jordan-Hare Stadium. This happens all the time. You can remember the kick six 10 years ago to the date? Anybody remember when Bo Nix was able to go ahead and beat up on Alabama? Anybody remember that Brian Harsin went toe-to-toe with Bryce Young in a year that a lot of people thought this was the most underwhelming hire in college football? This happens all the time when you go to the plains of Auburn. And it happened once again. Auburn jumps out. Auburn's running the football well. Auburn didn't pass. Auburn actually really just kind of said, you know what? We don't trust Robbie Ashford as a quarterback. We don't trust Peyton Thorne slinging it around the yard. We're going to trust our ground game. They finished with 93 passing yards. They averaged over 5.8 yards per play on the ground, 2 rushing scores. Jarquez Hunter had nearly 100 yards. Damari Alston averaged 8.5 yards. Peyton Thorne had 57 yards. Javarius Johnson, a wide receiver of all people, found his way to the end zone. They trusted their run game, and they told Alabama, hey, we may be one-dimensional, but you better make us even more one-dimensional. You better make us the wrong one-dimensional, where we have to throw the football. And Alabama couldn't do it. And Alabama struggled at that. But just because Alabama walks away with a quote-unquote scathed by the teeth win, you got to understand, it's the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl, we don't go ahead and put logic into these things. We just go ahead and say, you know what? That team won that day because weird stuff in the voodoo that resides in Auburn is alive and well, and it's not dead just because you change coaches. Wasn't dead underneath Gus Malzahn. Wasn't dead underneath Gene Chizik. Wasn't dead underneath Brian Harsin. Not dead underneath Hugh Freeze. That's just what this game is about. So Alabama does survive. And Alabama's offense was a little bit hindered at times. And there were some mental mistakes, a lot of which came from the offensive line, some of which came from the defense. There were problems in this game. You had drop balls. You had miscommunication when it came to handoffs. You had miscommunication when it came to open field blocking. But it's not that big of a deal to me. And it really shouldn't be that big of a deal to a lot of Alabama fans because you know what this game is all about. And slowly but surely, the guy who was benched after week 2's double-digit loss to Texas is the one that saved your season. The team relied heavily on Jalen Milroe. Milroe was the offense. Go ahead. And it's not me saying that as a fan. It's me saying it as a person. Look at the numbers. 259 passing yards. He rushed for a team high 107. He culminated over 360 yards of that offense, and then he found Isaiah Bond on a 4th and 31 at the back of the end zone to say, you know what? Let's keep this thing alive and well. Let's go ahead and keep hopes a little bit alive. Let's go ahead and not end our season today. And you know what? Momentum's going to carry over. But for a lot of people out there, you're probably saying to yourself, well, Alabama struggled against Auburn. You know who else struggled against Auburn, especially in the ground game? Georgia. Georgia did. And I'm not saying that Georgia can't beat Alabama, and I'm not saying that Alabama can't beat Georgia. In fact, I'm saying kind of the opposite right now. When you look at Alabama, Alabama might be the only team that can contain Georgia. And for Georgia, it might be the only team that can contain Alabama. When this ends and we decide who's going to the college football playoff, if Georgia or Alabama is in, and there is a shot where both are out, but I don't think it happens, that might be your national champion. Doesn't matter the rest of the schedule. Doesn't matter how they got here. Doesn't matter where they lined up in the polls, if they're number 1 or number 4. You might just say, those were the 2 best teams. They just played each other, and they just showed out in Atlanta. Why no one's going to take them down? That's what we might be saying come Sunday about what happens when Georgia and Alabama settle the score in Atlanta. And again, it's Alabama. Alabama, you're not going to beat Alabama on any given day. It's weird. It's 100% just weird seeing Alabama lose because here's the deal. You got to cut off the head of the snake. You have to be able to kill him. And until Nick Saban's the head. And until Nick Saban's gone and until Nick Saban is sitting on Lake Tuscaloosa, eating moon pies and drinking his second cup of coffee while there's practice going on just about 6 miles up the road, you're not going to have a shot. It's just the way life is. And it's the same thing with Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart will understand what it takes to beat Alabama because if he was on Alabama's staff. And a lot of those staff members that followed Kirby to Athens are still there. And if they haven't faced off against Nick Saban by being on his staff, they faced off against him alive and well. And Alabama, at times, has shown you constantly, don't give us one shot. Don't give us one shot to get momentum back. Because the second we do, guess what? Happens. And that's exactly what happened in Auburn. You allowed the 4th and 31. And I'm not saying that that's not the highlight play, because it 100% is. But never forget, there also was Jermaine Burton, 68 yards down the field right before halftime to go ahead and take the 17-14 lead. Don't forget, there was the fumble. Don't forget, there was the big-time Will Reichert kick. Don't forget, there was a couple of big plays that set up Alabama on 4th and short that gave them the inertia to get to Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond was just the final curtain call. Like, that's the encore of what the Iron Bowl was. And how funny. On the 10-year anniversary with 1 second left, where There Goes Davis was supposed to be alive and well, there goes Milroe finding his receiver in the back of the end zone, which eventually led to a victory and Hope staying alive and out in Tuscaloosa for a week longer. I'm telling you, Iron Bowl is a weird game, guys. If you haven't experienced it, I recommend if you are a huge college football aficionado and you just want to go ahead and experience what Southern hospitality and animosity is like, don't go to Tuscaloosa. Go to Jordan-Hare because that's a place where you will see the madness of the Iron Bowl occur. Alabama, yeah, maybe they got lucky, but it wasn't luck. It was just timing, last second shot, and of course, history was on its side that day. Weird stuff happens in Auburn. Weird stuff happens at Jordan-Hare. Weird stuff happened on Saturday. And lo and behold, the team that was always supposed to win and the team that ends up coming out on top might be the actual point. This is where we look back, say, this time next year and go, that's when you knew they were going to win the national championship. That's when you knew, just like Alabama fans worried about Auburn, Georgia fans worried about Alabama. Thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.